What if your Facebook likes, your private messages, your pictures, your posts and comments, your personality test answers could predict not just who you are but what you believe? Now imagine someone using that power to influence how you vote. This is not science fiction. This is the true story of Cambridge Analytica, a company that turned data into ammunition, a quiet data firm that hijacked democracy from behind the screen. And it all began with something innocent, an online quiz. By the time the world found out, it was already too late. 2014. Facebook was booming. Selfies, cat videos, political rants, and viral quizzes flooded timelines. It was a golden age for oversharing. But somewhere in the background, a quiet data experiment was unfolding. A psychology researcher named Alexander Kogan, young, charming, with a Cambridge degree and a mind for algorithms, launched a personality quiz app called This Is Your Digital Life. It seemed harmless until you read the fine print. When users downloaded the app, it didn't just collect their answers. Collected everything: their location, their posts, their friend lists, even private messages. And here's the twist. By exploiting a loophole in Facebook's API, Kogan's app didn't just harvest data from volunteers. It reached into the profiles of their friends too. Within months, over 87 million profiles were scraped. Every like, share, and scroll pattern transformed into a digital fingerprint. And the buyer behind it all? A mysterious analytics firm in London, Cambridge Analytica. Officially, they claimed to use data to change behavior. Unofficially, they were building a psychological weapon. The man running the show was Alexander Nix. Slick, posh, and disturbingly articulate. His company promised to revolutionize politics through data-driven messaging. But behind closed doors, Nix was selling something far more dangerous. And guess who was quietly funding the operation? Robert Mercer, a reclusive billionaire and data scientist who'd made his fortune on Wall Street algorithms. Alongside him, his political strategist Steve Bannon. Yes, that's Steve Bannon, the same man who would later run Donald Trump's campaign. Their idea was simple and terrifying. If you can understand a person's fears and desires, you can control their choices. Cambridge Analytica didn't just collect data. They harvested human emotion, and soon, they'd put it to the ultimate test in a presidential election. Fast forward to 2016. The world was watching the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump, the outsider billionaire, versus Hillary Clinton, the political heavyweight. Behind the scenes, Cambridge Analytica was offering Trump's campaign something revolutionary. Not traditional polling, not focus groups, but precision psychological targeting. They claimed they could segment voters into thousands of psychological archetypes, persuadables, they called them. Then they'd feed these profiles back into Facebook, designing ads that would tap directly into each personality's emotional triggers. For anxious voters, they'd push fear of immigrants. For nationalists, pride in the flag. For cynics, anti-establishment rants. Each person saw a different version of reality. Two Americans living on the same street could scroll the same app and see completely opposite worlds. That was how deep the social engineering went. And that was the genius and horror of Cambridge Analytica. They didn't need to lie. They just needed to amplify what you already feared. And the results? Trump won. The Leave campaign won. And Cambridge Analytica claimed victory from the shadows. But victory came at a cost. When people started digging, they realized that millions of people had been manipulated into making voting decisions without even knowing it. And Facebook? They pretended not to notice, until a pink-haired whistleblower stepped forward and blew the whole thing wide open. Meet Christopher Wiley. He joined Cambridge Analytica in 2013 as a bright-eyed data scientist, fascinated by how profoundly information could shape society. But what he saw inside changed him forever. He described it as a full-service propaganda machine. They weren't just building voter models. They were engineering manipulation pipelines, testing which emotions triggered the strongest reactions, and deployed same to manipulate voters in the most subtle way. One experiment found that anger spread faster than hope. Fear spread fastest of all. In early 2018, unable to live with the deceit by Cambridge Analytica, Wiley decided to go public. He handed over thousands of internal emails, presentations, and data files to journalists from The Guardian and The New York Times. Facebook's reaction? Denial. Then panic. Mark Zuckerberg was summoned to testify before Congress. His defense was, "Senator, we run ads." But it wasn't about ads, was it?
The developer who is singling out on this is Cambridge University researcher Dr. Alexander Kogan, who joins us now. And Alexander, we'll start there. What's your response when you hear Mark Zuckerberg essentially laying the blame for this entire scandal at your feet?
I think it's pretty powerful PR spin, but it's exactly that.
It was about power, invisible algorithmic power, pulling the strings from behind the curtains. Unseen, unheard, unknown. The kind that doesn't need a gun to steal your freedom. Wiley's testimony shattered the illusion. For the first time, the world saw how digital psychology could be weaponized. And once that door was opened, there was no closing it. But the story didn't end with the whistleblower. Because what Cambridge Analytica created didn't die when the company did. Cambridge Analytica called their work data-driven democracy. But what they really built was a behavioral manipulation at scale. They learned how to seed mistrust, polarize communities, and make facts optional. Fast-cut visuals, riots, social media flame wars, protest hashtags, intercut with computer code streams. Every post, every like, every angry comment was more fuel. They weren't creating division, they were monetizing it. And once the model worked, others copied it. Authoritarian regimes, foreign influence groups, even corporations. Because manipulation is profitable. Intense cinematic pulse as the globe spins. Red dots light up across continents. Think about it. If Cambridge Analytica could change an election, what could a more powerful algorithm do? Could it shape revolutions? Spark wars? Erase truth itself? By 2019, the damage was irreversible. Cambridge Analytica had shut down, but its playbook lived on. And as governments scrambled to regulate, one question echoed across the world. Who really controls democracy now? After the scandal broke, Cambridge Analytica tried to save face. They denied wrongdoing, called it fake news, and deleted their files. But investigators were already inside. It turned out Cambridge Analytica wasn't just meddling in the US and UK. They'd run influence campaigns in Kenya, Nigeria, India, Trinidad, and Mexico. They even pitched their services to military dictatorships. Behavioral influence operations, they called them. We'd call it something else. Psychological warfare. When the company finally declared bankruptcy, Alexander Nix vanished from the spotlight. But the network, the data, the tactics scattered into new companies under different names. Cambridge Analytica was dead. But the machine they built, still very much alive. In 2020, Netflix released The Great Hack, a film that dramatized Cambridge Analytica's mass manipulation of millions in the most subtle, yet profound social engineering experiment. The world gasped, politicians raged, then scrolled on. Because that's the final irony of this story. The outrage faded faster than the notifications that caused it. Cambridge Analytica wasn't a glitch. It was a preview. The truth is, democracy didn't get hacked. It got outsmarted. So next time you scroll past an ad that feels a little too personal, ask yourself, was it your choice to see it? Or was it chosen for you? Cambridge Analytica dissolved in 2018. But the damage? Permanent. Dozens of elections were now under suspicion. The trust between people and their governments fractured. Fake news had become the new weapon. Social media, the new battlefield. And truth, the first casualty. Mark Zuckerberg apologized. Facebook changed its privacy settings. But let's be honest. Can you ever truly unspill data? Your guess is as good as mine.